O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters of the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. And the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the bestower of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. What's the source? Okay, so we continue. We had yesterday morning and this was related to the Upanishad workshop that we'd had on Thursday as well. We were in Katha Upanishad, and we were hearing from Lord Yama that the two, it says, if there are two residing in the heart, the individual soul and the supreme soul, Paramatma. So it's as if these two are in the heart. And then saying further that that they are of the nature of, or the Vedantins say, or the ones who understand or who know Brahman say, that they are as light and shade. And here we had the concept of fire and smoke relating to these. So we'll pick up there. This was 38 and 39. Like fire covered by smoke, like a mirror covered by dust, like the unborn fetus completely surrounded by a membrane, just so is the wisdom in humankind covered over by the insatiable fire of desire, the constant enemy of the wise. So who wants to take a moment to talk about that, to unpack that? What are we hearing?
We don't have to create the ultimate state, or we don't have to. It's not a construction. It's not.
Yeah. So the word used is wisdom, and that's indeed you're there. So the word used specifically is wisdom, and the wisdom in humankind is where?
Already there.
Already there. Already here.
Already here.
Already here. We call it intuition, right? In common parlance, we call it intuition. Jung calls it supra-consciousness.
Yes. And so the smoke covers it. It's as if there is dark. And you don't see the light, you don't see the wisdom. It's as if. But the saints are saying that it is there, always.
Right. It's as if it's not here.
Right. So just learning how to uncover.
Oh. So the other is the clouds and the sun. So it's cloudy this morning. Where did the sun go?
Still there. But we see it as covered.
The sun didn't go anywhere, right? It's still here. So is it veiled? Is the sun veiled?
Yes.
No. If you ask the sun, it will say, I'm just fine, I'm not veiled.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's our perception.
But to us, it's as if it is veiled. So, like you were saying, as if it was veiled. In the same way, does the smoke cover the fire? Does the shade affect the light?
No.
No. Does the dust on the mirror affect the mirror?
No.
No. And then Swamiji in the discussion yesterday talked even about the baby, the fetus.
Yeah.
Does the amniotic sac affect the baby?
No.
No.
But this might be a little tangent, but how beautiful when the baby comes out, its first desire is that breath and fear, the origination of fear right there.
Oh.
But the wisdom is still there.
The wisdom is still there. The wisdom is still there. So, and that fear also is that smoke.
Yes.
It's also the dust in the mirror. It's also the covering, the clouds.
Avidya.
Sorry?
Avidya.
Avidya. Yeah, avidya. Avidya. So related to avidya. So just so is the wisdom of humankind covered over by the insatiable fire of desire. So here he's equating this insatiable fire. What does insatiable mean?
Can't be quenched.
Yeah.
Can't be sated, yeah? Can it? Can we testify?
Yeah.
Do we have enough experience? So that the smoke is that personal desire, that self-centered desire. And also anger, which is discussed, but the anger and the self-centered desire are one, just two sides of the same coin. Okay, so we'll continue from here. The
Fear also,
sorry?
Swamiji, sorry. Fear also the same?
Well, of course, yes. Fear will be related to personal desire in the same way that anger is. Fear is the anticipation of not getting what we want.
Right. Losing what we
or
have.
need, what we perceive that we need. Right? The senses, so we pick up here, 40, 41. The senses, mind, and intellect are the seat of the desire. It is this desire that veils wisdom and deludes people. So where do these self-centered desires reside? This is very much yoga psychology here as we step into this.
Ego.
Yeah.
Thoughts.
So, right. And he's saying in the senses and the mind and the intellect. And there's in the senses and the mind and the intellect. This is very practical stuff. So if this has been resonating with us and we're wanting to understand where these self-centered desires that are veiling wisdom, that are covering my own self, this wisdom, this intuition, Lord, however we relate, then where will we find those desires to be seated, those self-centered desires to be seated? And he's saying in the senses, we'll find them there. We'll find them in the mind meaning reactive mind, right? Instinctive. And we'll find them in the intellect. And we'll pick up, it's a beautiful commentary from Swami, very insightful from Swami Venkatesananda ji this morning about this. And he includes two shlokas together here. So the first one is, it's said a little differently. The senses, the mind, and the intellect are said to be the seats of desire. When he's speaking of desire in this sense, it's always self-centered desire. It's personal desire. Though it deludes the embodied by veiling his wisdom. Through this desire seated in the senses, the mind, and the intellect. Through these, it deludes the embodied by veiling his wisdom. Does that resonate?
So if there's not clarity in those three, you don't see the truth.
So, and can we touch this experientially? Do we have experience that helps us to confirm this?
Like when you're getting up and you're, still groggy, and your senses, your mind, your intellect all feels veiled. Very much so.
Okay, very good. So remember, desire and aversion are the same too. So we might see this more easily with aversion. Desire and aversion are just two poles of this thing. So aversion is also self-centered, right? I don't want. And how would you typically recognize aversion? You recognize desire by being pulled towards something, yes? And you recognize aversion by feeling the
Opposite.
The desire to run away from it, to get away from it, yes? So that's called fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
So have you had the experience, can you see it, and can you see even that it's repeated, where fear of something, great fear of something, veils your wisdom?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Brad?
Trying to.
Yeah, because the mind at that moment, it doesn't bring thoughts based on Dharma teachings or experiences of. So if you've had revelations or something of deeper truths of reality, the mind doesn't bring those thoughts. It brings projections and all sorts of different things.
And ways of controlling.
And you see, whatever addiction we deal with, and everybody has dealt with some sort of addiction, not necessarily drugs and alcohol, could be sex addiction, could be addiction to power, could be addiction to people telling us nice things.
Cars.
Yeah. Cars are right there. So if that's a long enough list to touch some addiction that we've dealt with or deal with, do you see that desire for the thing veils the knowledge that thing and that cycle is not good for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's figure out sort of difficult.
Yeah, do you see how it will even, within the mind and within the intellect, how it will even assert this desire, will assert it's okay. This time it will be different.
And then you can even see it hurting you as you're going into it.
Or it will assert this will be the last time. This will do it.
And you still continue.
Insatiable.
So can you relate to it being the covering over the wisdom? Okay. So here, and then Krishna says this, therefore, O Arjuna, so what to do about it? Therefore, O Arjuna, controlling the senses first, do thou kill this sinful thing. He's talking about personal desire. Kill the personal desire. Do thou kill this sinful thing, the destroyer of knowledge and realization. Understanding saying to us that there's only one thing that's veiling for us or preventing us from having that realization or that freedom that we want.
Exactly.
And we hold on to personal desire so tightly. If you look, there will even be a justification system in the mind and in the intellect. So judgment. Somebody's wrong. How hard will you hold on to that concept? My God, we have the perfect example right now in COVID time. Masks or vaccination, you pick. and look at the judgment that arises about someone who doesn't believe the way that you do. And then,
the justifications.
and all of that stuff. And then the holding on to that, that's a personal desire. That's an aversion. Huh? The whole thing about death, that's an aversion. There's nothing wrong with death. My God, death is the most amazing experience. Because you get a break from yourself. You get a break from this desire to have food and sex and all of this stuff.
Right.
You get a break from the maintenance of the body, for goodness sake. There couldn't be anything better for the body. The only thing better than death is realization, for God's sake.
That's what
And yet there's this terrible aversion, and that aversion to death is veiling wisdom for you. Huh? The fact that when you walk outside, you're afraid that you might get COVID, and that might kill you. That is veiling wisdom for you.
Yeah, you're so caught up in it, you can't see.
Right. What is wisdom? I am not this body.
So,
Of course I'm not this body. How could I be this body? If we really have our faculties and we really look at it, it's a laughable notion. Oh.
sometimes you still have access to the wisdom and you repeat yourself, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, but the fear is still there.
To the extent that we entertain the fear, or harbor the fear, or identify the fear, then we might even, the words might even be repeating, I am not the body, but one is not living according to that.
Right. It's living by the spirit rather than just...
So just check in with that.
Even if you don't entertain, where you pull out from thought and you're in that place where there is this...
Then that's why we said entertain, harbor, or identify with. If you're not entertaining that thought, if you're not, because here we'll read the commentary, but the thought itself, it relates, but the thought itself or the feeling itself, if you're not entertaining it, if you're not imbibing in it, then how does it have power over you? It doesn't have power over soul. It doesn't have power over the observer, over the witness, and you're the witness. So,
Swamiji, every possibility and every thought that ever was and ever will be is already available.
it's already here.
Yeah, so...
In the infinite universes, it's already here.
So I just noticed for me that I do notice those thoughts. They're like in the background, but not entertaining, not imbibing,
Right.
not identifying.
Right. Which is, speaking of the I, me mind. So the clouds are here. The clouds are here. Just on the note, and then yes, Uma Devi, please. The clouds are here. The thoughts are here. This is a sea of thought. The question is it my thought? Am I identified with it?
Well, I mean, like conventionally, it would seem that way because another person
As if.
It's as if, yeah, that's where that veil comes in. It seems that, like, I don't know what the concept of mind would be for each individual person, I guess. What does mind mean?
Well, you recognize it in the inner person. You recognize it in your inner world because you can say fear arose, but I was undisturbed by it. Has anyone ever had that experience?
Yeah.
So a yogi will have that experience. Fear arose, but I was undisturbed by it.
Right.
I saw it, but it didn't deter me. So, yeah. Oma Devi.
I have a question. How do you deal with something so in the subconscious? Because how can I say it? I have felt that wisdom is not enough to change certain behavior addiction. And my experience with that was with a food addiction. And I knew that even though the food was just for nutrition and not the body and all of this that I've learned, it was still not enough to change. And I went for so long with the food addiction. And I think with time I realized it was emotional, and that emotion was subconscious. But
so we discussed tomorrow morning, because we won't get to it today, the process by which wisdom rewrites that code, changes that behavior. So there is a process. We call it learning. But there's the relationship between the senses, the mind, the intellect, and Paramatman, the light itself. So we're dealing with factors first where the wisdom is being veiled. And then there's a question of integration. How do I, through this process of unveiling, how do I integrate the wisdom? So that will come to tomorrow morning.
J-Ma, there is a way out.
There is a way out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but this is all related. It's a beautiful question, and it's a beautiful example to work with in terms of seeing, because this is nothing unless it's practical for us. Otherwise, it's just philosophy class. So.
Right.
Okay. So we'll read this commentary related to these shlokas. He says, responsiveness to sense stimuli is inherent in the senses, the mind, and the intellect. So within the senses, the mind, and the intellect is this responsiveness to sense stimuli. He says, so it's a question of turning away from it in order to unveil the soul, the I, the capital S self, the witness, turning away from it. I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the intellect. I'm not the mind. I'm not the senses. I'm certainly not the sense objects. I don't suffer from that delusion, right? But also the rest of these are objects to me. I am the light. So, but responsiveness is inherent in the senses, the mind, and intellect. All these are the material half of divine nature. So, Radha to Krishna, or Shakti to Shiva, the material half of the divine nature. Water dissolves salt, but not stone. Fire burns dry firewood, but not a plantain stem. There is a responsive relationship. This responsiveness is instinct in the senses, impulsiveness in the mind, and judgment in the intellect. So this was that bit of wisdom that we wanted to share and imbibe in this morning, is where to see this responsiveness to sense stimuli. We see it in the senses as instinct. Do we understand? Can we relate to instinctive behavior? So in the senses, the program is instinct. So one of the strongest instincts, for example, is this procreation, reproduction. That's instinctive. So in the senses. In the mind, impulsiveness, where we feel that impulse. And fear is an impulsive trigger, isn't it? So get away. But also this attraction to chocolate, some food, whatever that food would be, whatever impulsiveness in the mind. And then judgment in the intellect. The same power is given a different attribute when it operates from its different seats. So again, it was shared, these are the three seats. So different power when it operates from its different seats. Thought converts these natural responses into pleasure, which gives rise to desire, or craving, which veils wisdom. So thought converts these natural responses into pleasure. So they're natural responses, but thought is converting them into pleasure or pain. There really isn't any. If there were pleasure, if there were pleasure in an object, it would exist in the object, and everyone would experience it in the object. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not in the object. It doesn't exist in the object. And pain doesn't exist in the object. These are thought-based, related to this process. When we look at physical sciences, we say chemicals in the brain, dopamine, something like that, these pleasure responses and so on, but they're really in astral, they're in the mind. So thought converts these natural responses into pleasure or pain, he doesn't say, but same, which gives rise to desire or aversion, right? Or craving. And it's that which veils wisdom. So he's just in this one paragraph, he's given us the yoga psychology, the science, in terms of understanding what it is, what's happening, where are these personal desires coming from? And what's the mechanism that's occurring within this psyche, within this person, to draw us towards the stimuli or push us away from them? And coupling that with, and that whole process is veiling your intuition. And this is why, for most of us, we only have intuitive guidance when we sleep. Only when this whole psyche shuts down. General experience. Only when the mind is completely focused in meditation or in some sort of action. You notice we ask the question, ask the question, ask the question. We're still all caught up in the veils. No answer. We're working it out and are trying to work it out in our mind. We don't find anything. We stop. Right? So this is, from a practical standpoint, this is what's being shared.
Yeah.
And in deep sleep, when the psyche, which is operating in this way, shuts down, then we'll get that intuitive flash coming out of deep sleep.
I had experience with that yesterday. I kept trying to work out what to do with the prasad, and I was just flipping out, and I kept talking to Brett, and Brett's just should I get Kalyana? I don't know. I mean, that sounds great. And I was just flipping out, and then I was just
there you go. There you go.
Let's just see what happens. I'm going to throw some stuff in the blender. And then I went over to Doug and I just said, say yes or no.
There you go.
Just to see what I should do about one thing.
Okay, so these 3 more paragraphs I'll just read. Wisdom refers here to the right knowledge of the nature of desire, and also to the nature of the witness consciousness within. So he's saying the wisdom refers to the right knowledge of what's beneficial, to the right knowledge of desire, how this whole desire tree is working, but also right knowledge as to the nature of the witness consciousness within, the I. The I, the pure self, capital S self. See, we get all caught up. Now I'm the body. I don't have to say I'm the body. I'm just the body.
Right.
And you're hurting me. Leave me alone. Shut up. Don't ever do that again. Where's the right knowledge?
It's so deeply veiled.
It's veiled. Oh. So wisdom refers to that right knowledge, the effort to curb instincts and impulsiveness, and also to restore saner values is meaningful only because the self is forever untouched by desire. And this is wisdom. One's own self, capital S self, is never touched by any of this garbage.
Yeah, good thing.
So when we take it out, we find the sun.
And it can happen really quickly. it can be so miserable and then
Impulse.
meditation.
Impulse. Yeah, impulse. This wisdom is veiled by the turbulent senses, impure mind, and unwise intellect, ridden by false values. It is as if we are looking at the bed of a lake through the disturbed surface of the muddy water, which covers the pearl, as also pebbles on the bed. A start must be made somewhere. And Uma Devi, this is lead into what you're asking. A start must be made somewhere, because once we see our situation, then what to do? And he says a start must be made somewhere. And this is the second shloka, where therefore, O Arjuna, controlling the senses first, do thou kill this sinful thing. So be rid of it, because it destroys your knowledge and realization, prevents you from realization. A start must be made somewhere. The desire aggravating activity of the senses must be curbed first. Of course, this is only another way of denoting control of the mind. When the mind and senses are calm, the intellect must be made to abandon its false values. And a quote, with what and by whom is the mind controlled, is a question that does not admit an easy answer. The desire to give up desire arises in the mind, but when it is rightly understood, there is awakening of an intelligence other than the mind. And that awakening of the intelligence other than the mind, is wisdom. It's as if it awakens. As if the clouds clear and the sun shines through. Like this. So, and he asked the question, which is the lead-in to tomorrow morning, which is direct discussion, Uma Devi, of that question. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
It seems like if you had one pointed focus on whatever your duty is,
Yes.
that you wouldn't get as caught up with aversions and desires. You just put all your energy into that duty.
Oh, it's true. Now, this also is addressed in the discussion tomorrow morning, because the shloka is there about the faculties and the order of things. What's over what? What is superior to what? And understanding of that helps us to understand how to come out of this. But in principle, yes, if the mind is single-pointed, and that is it, and for the mind to remain single-pointed, the mind has to be single-pointed on that which is eternal, which is everywhere, which has always existed, which will always exist. Then it can stay single-pointed. And that's really what we're being guided to, is that single-pointed mind. Oh, okay, let's close with final prayers and arati. Page 174. Oh my goodness. I forgot to do this. Oh my goodness. Come on, don't do that. Okay. Om Trayambakam Yajame Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukmeva Bandhanam Ritor Mokshiyamam Ritat Om Trayambakam Yajame Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukmeva Bandhanam Ritor Mokshiyamam Ritat Om Trayambakam Yajame Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukmeva Bandhanam Ritor Mokshiyamam Ritat Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. Sarve Shantu Niramaya. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashitu Kabhag Bhave. Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mritor Mahamritam Gamaya. Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnam Purna Mudashate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. Humble Sakuru Shivananda Maharaj. And salutations to all the saints and sages of all traditions. That's right, Sri.